Hello, everyone. I picked up something I've been wanting for a while but didn't have. If you're not familiar with this, this is an 1875 S 20-cent piece. So I showed this to my wife. She's like, 20 cent? I'm like, yep, we actually had a 20 cent. And I believe she asked me why. And it doesn't really make much sense if you think about it, but it has an interesting story behind it. So first, a little bit of a basic. You might notice that we have the Cedar Liberty design here. The Cedar Liberty design, as you know, was used on Cedar Liberty dimes, half dimes, quarters, half dollars. It was a popular design, and it was used for several decades. I would guess at least 50 plus years. So very, very popular. On the back, we have an eagle. Now, the eagle is actually a little bit different than what's on the Cedar Liberty design. Yes, it's actually a little bit different than what's on the Cedar Liberty design. It's actually looking the opposite direction. Now, definitely a cool coin, but you might be asking, why the heck did they make a 20-cent coin? Well, from my understanding and research, it was actually initially proposed in the 1700s, and people kind of poo-pooed the idea and says, do we really need a 20-cent coin? Then it kind of went away for the longest time. Now, during the Civil War, a lot of the coinage dried up. It really wasn't much available, and people in the West didn't want to use base metal coins like pennies and nickels. They trusted gold and they trusted silver, kind of like smart people nowadays. So what they did was someone suggested, why don't we make some of these 20-cent pieces? And the person who suggested this, surprise, surprise, was a newly elected senator from Nevada who just happened to own a mine that mines silver. So we get a senator who takes over in January of 75, I believe. So he takes over in January. A month after getting there, says, let's go make some silver coins, maybe a 20 cent. So yeah, he is taking care of the silver coin demand for his part of the country, but just so happens to own a silver mine. So he says, let's make a 20-cent coin. Now, some people kind of question the sanity of this, considering that, like I said, it doesn't really do much other than take the spot of 2 dimes or 4 nickels. The other big problem that no one really seemed to note to kind of bring up as it was being passed was that it looked quite a bit like the quarter. Now, if you have them right next to each other, you'll say, well, the quarter's bigger. It's really noticeable. But, no, it's really not that noticeable because you have the quarter and the 20-cent piece right next to each other. If you didn't have the 20-cent piece, the quarter next to it, and you just had a couple of dimes in your pocket, I could see how it would very, very easily be confused. Now, the back of the quarter says quarter doll, period, as for quarter dollar, whereas the 20-cent piece says 20 cents at the bottom. And you can see the quarter dollar there. And you can see that the eagles are different, kind of similar in design. It's a little hard to tell because, there's some wear and tear over the age. But that happens when a coin's like 125, 130 years old. We're not going to look that good when we're 125 either. But I digress. So, other than the difference of 2 millimeters in diameter and a lack of reading, these coins were really, really similar. So they ended up making like 1.1 million at the San Francisco Mint, where these were kind of necessary, or I should say silver coins were necessary, not necessarily these. And then they made a small number at the Carson City Mint in Nevada, and a small number at the Philadelphia Mint. After about a year, some in Congress said, this is stupid, let's get rid of these. And legislation was actually proposed to end these, like not even a year after they started. Well, it didn't end up happening until 1878. So what they did was they made like 1.1 million of these in San Francisco, like maybe 100,000 or less in Carson City and Philadelphia. Sorry, I don't have the exact numbers. Absolutely minuscule mintages in 1876, like really, really small mintages for circulation. And I use circulation like in quotes because not that many were made, not that many circulated. And then 1877 and 78 was just proof. So as you can imagine, with proofs from that year, from those years in the 1800s, not that many were made. So when you do see these coins, you typically see them in the 1875s. The 1875s is by far the most prevalent year. If you see one, it's probably an 1875s. And if you see one that's really expensive, it's probably other than the 1875s. This particular one, I ended up paying a little over $100 for. It looks like it's clean to me. And as you can tell, it has some wear. The front doesn't look quite as good as the back. Back looks much better. But I think I got a fair price on it. Because like I said, it's something you don't see very often. And it's something I'm really happy to have an example of in my collection. Because like I said, I have 2 cents. I have 3-cent silvers, 3-cent nickels. But I don't have any, and I have half cents. But I don't have any 20-cent coins. So I kind of filled that hole. And quite frankly, if I'm going to get a 20-cent coin, it's going to be the 1875s. And by the way, like most other silver coins in the 1800s, this one was made of 90% silver, 10% copper, and it has almost 0.15 ounces of silver below the 0.18 that you'd get in a quarter. So just kind of like a weird denomination, you know. I mean, if you try and put yourself back, 150 years ago or more, especially more, it made sense to have half pennies because things were so cheap back then. So, half pennies made sense. Pennies made sense. I'm sure you could get a heck of a lot more for a penny, in 1820 than you can get now. And I can also see how, like, say, a 2-cent coin would make sense. 3-cent coins, even. Although if you have a 1 cent and a 3 cent, then the 2 cent doesn't really seem to make that much sense, and it did stick around for a while, which is surprising. But I mean, the 20-cent coin, not really that great an idea in my opinion, but it's a cool piece of numismatic history. Well, that's all I got for you today. Have a good one, and if you get a chance, kind of check out the history of this, because I kind of just gave you the the backstory and the background. But it's a pretty interesting coin if you follow it, and then you follow some of the other coins that were made, like the 2-cent piece, 3-cent nickels, 3-cent silvers, half pennies that we don't have around anymore. Really, really fascinating stuff. All right, guys, talk to you later.